Hello, everyone. This is James with Unity of Greenville. I appreciate you being with me. This Wednesday evening is when we're recording. I don't know when you're watching it. You could be watching it 10 years from now, for all I know. But that's okay, because truth is truth is truth. And whatever truth is actual truth with a capital T, which means it is permanent or that it is truth that is eternal or has infinite capacity to it. So, tonight we're talking metaphysics. We're talking about the metaphysics of communion. We did a talk this past Sunday on the idea of communion. We actually partook of the symbols, the uh, elements of communion. And it was very good. It was a very sweet ceremony, and I think folks really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. So you can go back and listen to that and see the whole, everything that we talked about. But what I want to do tonight is just kind of tune in to some of the finer points of communion. What is communion? It is communion is the exchange of energy. It is the exchange of positive energy. It is the exchange of mental, emotional, and spiritual energy. It is when two people who go within each other. You say, well, James, how do we do that? Well, have you ever been in a conversation with someone where you're totally into the conversation and you both sense and feel that essence of being? Now, this is something that some people have experienced this, and some people have experienced it, but they don't know what it is. And I think most of us have it on one level or another. We've experienced it. So in Matthew, Jesus said, or the Bible says, while they were eating, Jesus took some bread and thanked God for it and broke it. Then he gave it to his followers and said, take the bread and eat it. This is my body. Then Jesus took a cup and thanked God for it and gave it to his followers. In Luke 22, he said, do this in remembrance of me. So let's break all this down. While they were eating, you see, there's all different kinds of food. There is physical food, which we need and we eat every day. Then there's also spiritual food. And spiritual food is that nourishment we get when we are tuned in and turned on to the divine awareness, the divine understanding. It is to chew upon and to feed upon the bread of knowledge and wisdom and understanding. That's the kind of food that Jesus was talking about. He was not talking about, eating a piece of bread. Because in another scripture, he said, you're not going to live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Now, what is the mouth of God? Folks try to take that literally, that God has a physical mouth. Well, God is spirit, and no man or no human has seen God in that form. We have felt the effects. It's like the wind, Jesus said. You feel the effects of the wind. You feel the effects of it, but you haven't really seen wind. And it's the same with spirit. You haven't really seen spirit. Spirit is an impulse. It is a desire. It is a inner movement. It is something that is beyond the physical. So Jesus took the bread and he gave thanks for it, and then he fed them with it. Now, here's the thing. Jesus taught for 3 years. He'd been feeding them all along with his teachings. See, teachings are spiritual food. Whatever you take in through your eye gate and your ear gate, and you contemplate on it, or you meditate on it, or you think on it, then that is like chewing, and that is like breaking it down so that you can digest it, so that it can become a part of who you are. Okay? And so he also said, now this bread is my body. And when he was saying that, I believe he was speaking metaphorically. He was talking about the body of God, the body of God. We know that the body of God is this vast um, spaciousness that is all around us and that is within us. We are all a part of the body of God. And so the universe is God, is the body of God. And so you and I, in physical form, we are able to see the pieces and the parts of the body of God, because it had to be broken down in order for us to begin to um, see God, little glimpses. When you look in the eyes of another human being, you are seeing the infinite. You're seeing the infinite intelligence in the eyes. You're seeing the soul that is beyond the physical, that's beyond the body. You're seeing God, basically. When you look at an animal, when you look at a tree, you're seeing God. When you see the tree and you see its branches and its leaves, you're seeing the strength and the power of divinity. You're seeing an expression of it, a form of God. And so everything around us, last week we talked about 1,000 names for God. And in that, we realized that there are many names, many aspects, many natures, many ways to be aware of divinity. And so the body of God was broken into this physical form so that you could see different parts of it. Another way to say it is unfolded so that you could see it and feel it. It's like the blind men who couldn't see, and they were taken to a place where there was an elephant. They said, "We want one here. You feel the back. You feel over here. You feel on that side, and tell us what it is." And so they begin to describe different things. Well, what they were feeling was the elephant, but one was feeling the tail, one was feeling the ear, the other was feeling the nose or the trunk of the elephant. And so they all described it in different ways, but it was still an elephant. The wholeness of it was the elephant. And it's the same way that we see the divine. We see little pieces and parts and aspects. When we look in people's lives, we see that love, we see that joy, but we don't always see the wholeness of it, the completeness of it, the fulfillment of it. So you understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about bread, when I'm talking about the body of God. Jesus saying that this is my body, eat, you know, and he's talking about this is what nourishes us. This is what truly feeds us. People are hungry and they don't know what they're hungry for. It's not necessarily for that second piece of pie. It's not necessarily for any of that. There's a lot of people who feed upon news. They watch news when they get up in the morning until they go to bed at night. They feed on it. And what they don't realize is what you feed upon, what you take into yourself, is what you become. You become what you feed upon. So if you're feeding upon the presence of God and the nature of God, then you are experiencing a greater quality of life because it is working in you. It's like a seed in the beginning that grows up and to become the tallest tree. So, what about the cup that Jesus talked about? Well, the cup is a container. A container. Your body is a container. What does it contain? It contains your spiritual essence. The earth is a container. What does it contain? It contains divinity in physical form. Okay? Everything we see in the world is a container. It contains something. A tree has a spirit. It has energy. The tree is alive. Grass is alive. Everything is alive because it is the life of God. And so when we feed on its essence, its spiritual essence, then it feeds us. It nourishes us. It fills us up and gives us satisfaction because a lot of people are dissatisfied. They're hungry and they don't know what they're hungry for. They're thirsty. They don't know what they're thirsty for. They're looking around and they're trying all these things and but they haven't really bit into or drank fully the teachings and the ideas and the concepts that point to and that reveal the divine nature. Mm. That is truly the only thing that really satisfies us. So Jesus said to do this in remembrance of me. Now, what is the me he was talking about? He wasn't talking about his ego because there's Jesus the man and then there's Christ the Spirit. The Spirit is the anointing, it's the essence, it is the reality. But Jesus the man was a personality, just like you and I are personalities. This ancient ritual of drinking wine and eating bread, it's been around for a long time. It's thousands and thousands of years old. Jesus was not the first person who talked about this. So the mission of Jesus was to heal the broken body of God and restore people's vision to be able to see the whole body of God or the wholeness of divinity, to be able to come back into the oneness and experience it for themselves, to experience the love. Now, this is the opposite of separation and division. Whenever you hear a guru, a sage, or a spiritual teacher, it's important to really pay attention, listen to them. If they are coming from a place of separation, in other words, they're telling you to hate certain people or to despise certain people or to make fun of certain people, then you know that is not coming from the mind of God. Because the mind of God always teaches the healing of the beliefs of separation, to bring the pieces back together into a sense of wholeness and wellness. And I believe that that is what our true mission is in the world. If you are a spiritual being, then this is your task, your duty, your responsibility, your ministry is to heal the beliefs in separation. You see, a false belief has no power other than what we give to it. You have to buy into it for it to have any power over you. And what happens is people, they buy into certain beliefs, they build them up, they keep reinforcing them, so that it feels real to them. It's important to um, get at the real truth and hold on to it and feel it and get to know it. Because once you are able to discern truth, then you're not going to be deceived. You're not going to be led astray by things that are less than, that are less important. You can see everything in its place, and that's important. So when you feed upon the words of life, which is delicious spiritual food, which is what a good teacher does, is they're like a chef, they're like a cook. They know how to create healthy meals with all the right herbs and spices. And they're able to feed people. And so we start to rebuild our consciousness of the whole body of God, and we begin to see our own wholeness, and we start to see the wholeness in other people because we're seeing the whole body. We're not just looking at one little piece, one little aspect. It's interesting to me. Over the years, I've met people, and I've met people in all different uh, periods in their lives. I've met people who are at the lowest point in their life. I've met people at the highest point in their life. And here's the thing. You may know someone who's living at a very low vibration. They're living, in a really tough time. But you don't know the whole story. You don't know what they could become because we don't see clearly. See? And we need to gain some clarity and understanding so that we can see that. Now, it's also true with people who you look up to and you say, wow, these people are amazing, they're wonderful. But you're not seeing the whole story because those wonderful people may fall. They may have something come up, a downfall in their life that they go through, the dark night of the soul, whatever you want to call it. You don't see the whole picture. And it's important that we do that we don't judge anybody in the moment because you never know what that person, the potential of that person. And I believe that we all have divine potential. We all have the potential of the wholeness of God, the wholeness of spirit, the wholeness to see the big picture, to see the complete picture and know the truth. And what did Jesus say? When you know the truth, it will cause freedom to begin to arise in your life. What does it mean to be free? Well, there's more to freedom than what most people think about. It's more than just what you can do out here in the physical world, because the truth of it is you can be locked in a jail cell and still be free completely and absolutely, because freedom is on the inside, free from those overwhelming thoughts, free from those emotions that drain you, free from those preconceived ideas and those prejudices and those fears and the guilt and the shame and the self-abuse and abuse and the self-loathing, all of these things. You can be free of those on the inside. And that's true enlightenment. That is true enlightenment. So, Jesus was talking about the blood of Christ. Well, what is the blood of Christ? Well, the Christ is the Jesus, the mantle of a human being in fullness is what it is. It is the completeness of a human being. It is a human being who is fully enlightened. It's the idea of the blood of Christ is the DNA of Jesus, the spiritual DNA. And I believe that all of us possess this spiritual DNA. We all have a true identity. It's like Clark Kent and Superman. You might look in the mirror and think, well, hello, Clark. But in reality, when you pull away the outer shell, the suit, you see there's a big S on your shirt. And what does that represent? That represents, the super being, the Superman, the Superwoman, the true spiritual being that you and I are. And so Jesus demonstrated that through accessing this divine DNA, that you could, and he accessed in a very meaningful and powerful and positive way, that you could actually bring healing to the world, and you could bring healing and the end of people's suffering, which is fantastic. Isn't that what you want? That's what I want. I think there's a lot of people that want that. But when we're first born into this world, we come through a veil of forgetfulness. And so we need reminders of who we are. And that's what Jesus and Buddha and many other teachers, they represent who we truly are, our divine DNA, our true identity. and they remind us of our wholeness, of our well-being. When we remember that Jesus, then he reminds us of our own divine nature of joy, of peace, and of love. Now, Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore, he says this in his book, Christian Healing. Because the Word is the mind seed from which springs every condition, great stress is laid on the power of the Word, both in the Scriptures and in metaphysical interpretations of the Scriptures. All metaphysicians recognize that certain words used persistently mold and transform conditions in mind, body, and affairs. So that's what Jesus talked about by feeding upon the words of life and the teachings of truth that you can literally embody the idea of the spiritual bread. And so you also become bread or food for others to feed upon because that divine substance in you begins to radiate and begins to shine and you begin to open up and be able to share your truth. And you become a model, which is what Jesus was, what Buddha was, what so many of these teachers, that truly express their divine nature. That's what they were doing. We become an expression of the divine law of truth. Jesus said, if you abide in me, this Christ nature, then you can ask for whatever you want and it will come to you. The problem is people do not feed upon the body of God. They don't feed upon the words of truth because it's only truth that can break through and create what you really need and want. So it's something to think about. And I believe that contemplation is a powerful tool that you can use. That you put it in your toolbox whenever you get an idea and you feel like it is a divine idea. Then contemplate it, think about it. Feel it. Begin to talk about it until it begins to open itself up like cracking a nut and eating the nut on the inside of the shells. That's what we're talking about. You got to go within it in order to get to the real truth. One day, Jesus was talking to his disciples and he said, listen, he said, I have food to eat that you don't know anything about. What was he saying? It was the fact that he was nourished and sustained by contemplating and meditating on his mission and purpose. He said, for this reason have I come into the world. What is that reason? To heal the beliefs in separation. That's what the idea of salvation is. In the Greek, it's the word sozo, and it means wholeness and wellness. There's also another word, soteria, and soteria is a Greek word that was taken from the idea of the Greek gods. Soteria was a Greek goddess, and she was the preserver. She was the life bringer. She was the healer, and she had many gifts that she gave. And they were called the gifts of grace. And so that's why in the Bible it talks about the gifts of the Spirit or the gifts of grace, the charismata. And you and I both have many gifts that we are yet to tap, that we are yet to release, that we have inside of us. It's important to remember and to know that there's always more. There's always more. But everything Jesus said was spoken in a parable, was told in a story, or offered in a metaphor, or some kind of symbol of truth. Now, the people listening to him at the time didn't always get it. The first time, the second time, the third time, because it takes a while to chew upon it and to chew on it and to digest it and really understand what's being said. We have to feed on this truth to allow it to become the meat on our bones, to contemplate, to consider, to roll it over in our minds, to question it, to absorb it. This is how we feed upon it. Myrtle Fillmore, the other co-founder of Unity, said, "Know that the Word of God is in your mouth and in your heart. Rejoice that this is true and speak the words of truth with joy and power and love. Expect your words spoken and sung to bring results. Weed out all the destructive and negative thoughts and words and tones." Wow, isn't that amazing? And that was from her healing letters. So as we feed upon these words of truth, we begin to experience communion in the heart. And what did we say communion was? It's a moment of grace, of inner reflection. It is the sharing or exchanging of intimate thoughts and feelings. This exchange can be on a mental, emotional, or spiritual level. So we know that Jesus taught and brought forth a new testament, a new covenant, a new pact that he wanted to make with humanity that was based on love, on kindness, respect, integrity, rather than the violent sacrifices of animals that they were involved with in those days. Animal sacrifices only worked temporarily. The guilt, the fear, the shame would return with a vengeance because they didn't deal with the true heart of the matter, because they were not tuned into the wholeness of God. They were not tuned into their own wholeness. So the teachings of the Christ, or his way, was to preach a gospel of inclusion for all people, all nations, Jews and Gentiles alike. He said there's no difference. It was a universal message that makes it available to everyone. Anybody can apply these spiritual principles and experience their power. Once you understand the laws of life, the principles of truth, you can apply them and use them. You know, it was just this morning that a rocket was launched by NASA, Artemis, to go to the moon. It didn't have any human beings on it, but they wanted to see, how things would go if we went back to the moon. So this was like a preview of how it could be if we actually had people on a rocket ship. They wanted to make sure that it was safe, that the rocket they'd made was safe. And so the rocket ship took off this morning, and it's on its way to the moon. Now, how did they do this? Well, they understand that the physicists and the scientists at NASA know the laws of this physical world, and they knew how to apply those laws in order to create this rocket and experience its power. So it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Now, I want to end with some words spoken by Rumi, because I believe that Rumi was so intimately one with and connected with his divine source that when he spoke the words of God, the words of life. Listen to what our friend Rumi had to say. There is a voice that doesn't use words. Listen. The quieter you become, the more you're able to hear. The universe is not outside of you. Look inside yourself. Everything that you want, you already are. There is a force within that gives you life. Seek that. You have within you more love than you could ever understand. Love is the religion, and the universe is the book. Wow. These are powerfully, spiritually intimate words that you can take into yourself, and they will feed you. You know when you hear words that are divine, that are uplifting, that are healing, that are nurturing. You can tell. I love the word beloved. Beloved. It's a word that you can feed on. What is the beloved? It is the idea to be well loved. Do you feel well loved today? This is unconditional love in its highest form that knows and understands the true value and preciousness of a person. So affirm with me now, I am precious, I am valuable, I am well loved, I am the beloved. I am the beloved. Beautiful words. Let's take a breath together. Whew. Yeah. Something for you to feed upon today. A little food for the roads. And it's not really fast food. You need to let it cook, let it work, let it bake on the inside of your heart until it opens up and you are able to receive the truths and the revelations that they hold for you. And this is a personal, intimate thing that you can experience in your life. All right. Thank you for listening today. If you would like to make a donation to Unity of Greenville, I invite you to go to our website, unitychurchofgreenville.org. You can make a donation there. If what you hear is feeding you, is blessing you, causing you to feel more connected and at peace, to feel more love and joy, then I invite you to consider being a partner with us and sharing with us and make a donation today. Appreciate that. If you have a prayer request, if you'd like to find out more about our classes and what's going on, we're currently presenting we have a couple of offerings on Monday evenings. One is SEE courses that you can take. We've joined with another Unity church, and you can take these classes online. And they have a teacher there that is teaching through Zoom. So anybody can do it. You can go to our website and find out more about that. Or I have started a class this past Monday night. And if there's still time, if you want to hear the other two, be a part of the other two classes we've got coming up this next Monday and the Monday after. It's a three Monday class. And what I can do is if you decide that you want to join, you can go to our website. You can see what it's about. It's called Keeping the Peace, How to Communicate Effectively with People About Difficult Topics. Don't you think that's something we need? You might need that. So what I can do is send you an email with the first night's notes, and then you can join us live for the other two nights, and we'll also provide the notes for everything that we talk about, so that you can feed upon it and you can learn and you can see how to keep the peace, which I think is so important these days. All right, thanks for being with me. I appreciate it. Don't forget that this Sunday we're going to be dedicating our Unity Peace Quilt. And it's going to be something to see. In fact, you might want to make a trip to see it. We'll be posting it online and sharing it, but I think seeing it in person would be wonderful. We're going to have lights and so forth around the property, and you'll be able to come and experience this beautiful artwork that we're calling it the Unity Peace Quilt. and it's something like, you know, um, 12 by 13 feet, and it's going to be really beautiful. We're going to be dedicating it this Sunday at our service, and we'll be showing some pictures of it so that you can see it, and maybe want to make a trip down and or up or wherever you're from, and take a selfie with it, or if you happen to be in the area. So take care of yourself. We look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Reverend David Torres is going to be sharing the message, and he always has a good word to share. So we'll look forward to that as well. Take care of yourself. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Sleep well tonight, and we'll see you next time.